Thank you, Pat. And I was always raising people's hands, and I say, man, I'm outnumbered by coming from Red Raider country. But I'm not a Texas Tech graduate, so I guess I'm all right. My experience is from being in the field 35 years in the oil field, and we're specifically in West Texas. Our offices are from San Angelo, Big Lake, north to Lubbock, and we'll go west into New Mexico, Roswell, and pretty well in the heart of United States oil field. And anywhere in between major oil towns we're represented. Our service company comes in after the drilling rig leaves. Once they drill the well, our well servicing rigs come in, our fluid trucks come in, we're in the water disposal business, and so we have a pretty good idea of what's going on in the economy and what's the demand is with our customers. To go back to June 2014, two Wells Fargo bankers take me to lunch, and they always have the same question. They say, well, what you going to do when you're getting ready to retire? Who's knocking on your door to trying to buy you out? And I have 3 daughters, so I don't have anybody who's going to take the business over. And then they want to make sure that maybe they can borrow some money to whoever's going to buy me out. But another thing is they always ask, what is price of oil going to do? What you see, what you feel. And I told them back then, in June last year, I say, I think the price of oil is going to go drop, and I'm going to give it 6 months, no longer than a year. And they asked why. And I told them, when I used to come in after the drilling rig leaves, we complete the well, and the customer was happy with a 40 to 80 barrel well per day. And now I see those same customers drilling 400 barrel to 800 barrel wells because of fracking, new technology, and that is from a range from San Angelo north and into New Mexico. And that's not just in Texas, but the same thing is happening in the Dakotas, Pennsylvania, and everywhere through the United States. And we're going to have a lot of oil. And so then what things happen, and I hate to be saying it came true because, it became a nightmare. Anyway, we had to kind of study what was going to happen to our industry and where is our company going to stand. And it's going to be the same for what I studied this year, and it's going to be good for next year. We studied, our customers. What is going to make and keep our customers busy? Our customers, in the past, we heard about hedging, and we never paid a whole lot of attention to hedging as a service company because, price of oil was good. But, hedging is playing a major role right now in the survival of these big companies, and it plays a big role in the survival of our companies. And so we focus on companies who are hedging and have done very good this year. But however, these contracts are going to be expiring, and new hedging prices are horrible, so they're not going to be hedging next year. So we're going to see a slowdown with those companies who are hedged. The other customers we have what we call guaranteed projects. Customers who have raised a lot of money, have the money in the bank from their investors, and have this great field, and they're going to build the infrastructure. But what they're not going to do is they're not going to put on the big frac jobs and the big horizontal wells. They're going to play safe, bring the wells in, and then maybe come at a later time and do those big frac jobs and do the horizontal leg where the really successful oil production comes from. And then you have the customers who are going to be busy because they have to be busy of expiring leases. During the boom, leases were signed with stipulations that X amount of wells had to be drilled during a 12-year period, 12-month period. And, if they don't drill those wells, then they're going to lose the lease. So they are forced to do some kind of drilling. Against those companies, they're probably going to do a vertical well and take advantage of the cheap oil prices, drilling prices and surface prices, because they have dropped from anywhere from 20 to 40%. So those guys, they're going to do a minimum amount of work. And as a company, a service company especially, we're focusing in production. We're looking at companies who have lots of water because we're in the fluid transport business, disposal business. Those are our marketing. But those guys, you know, as long as they have a decent production, they will continue going as the price of oil will hold up. And then last, we looked at different areas. You know, you heard about stripper wells. You know, these are wells that make 5 to 10 barrels a day. Those guys are going to be in serious problems. They're not going to have the money to rework a well, repair the well with the price of oil the way it is today. You know, compared to, we'll see Pecos, West Texas, like San Angelo, and then New Mexico, where they make the 400, 800 barrel wells. Those guys, they have the money and the cash flow to continue on repairing and improving their fields. Next, we studied what our service companies going to do. Not only our competition, but the rest of the industry of service companies. And, you know, we look for this year and next year, and there are going to be some big changes coming down. It's going to be a make or break situation for a lot of them, especially if they have borrowed a lot of money. We kind of broke down our competitors and the service companies, and you have the individuals who started the business and built a nice business, start having some extra cash flow. Next thing you know, they're going to spend money on luxury items, not business, not related items. And I think those guys are going to be seeing really having a hard time to discipline themselves and get away from the luxury items and get back down to the core of the business. Then we have seen very successful companies. And these guys that have made lots of money and acquired lots of credit. And for whatever reason, they get bored with the business or they want to get in another venture of the business. For example, starting a frac company. They borrowed a lot of money building these frac companies. And next thing you know, fracking is slow. But the core business is now having to cash flow the sick company. And now I'm going to see both those companies are going down because the good company cannot subsidize the sick company. And we're going to see several of those companies are going to be having serious problems in 2016. Then you have the companies that are set up by investors. Doctors, lawyers, we see them everywhere competing against us. And what they do, they want to go and have a quick return on their money by getting into the oilfield service business. They either put a son in business or they put a minority partner in business. And now, you know, there's going to be a lot of stress put on, there's no profit. So what to do is these minority partners, they're going to bail out. And there's going to leave the investor holding the bag, and they don't have the knowledge how to continue on in the oil field. And I've seen several competitors already having doors shut, have lots of equipment sitting out there, but there's nobody running the business. So next we studied pricing. What's the effect of oil has to do with the pricing and services? And, you know, because of the drop of prices and business is slow, competition has intensified to enormous. And we see some people quoting prices below cost. And I think they're just trying to get some kind of cash coming into the door, hopefully to pay the bank to kind of keep the doors open for a little bit longer. But that will come to a stop in 2016. I think they're going to run out of cash, and the door is going to be halfway closed. Then you have the customers. The customers are requesting cheaper prices, and it has to be. You know, we can't charge, the service companies can't charge when it was $100 a barrel. So now the customers have a choice. During the boom and $100 a barrel, there was not enough equipment out there. And these customers had to use companies just to keep whatever service needs to work. But now, because things have slowed down, they have a choice of who they're going to use. And, you know, they're going to come down to the reputation of the company, the safety performance, and whatever potential liability they can share to the service company. So we're going to see a lot of changes going on, a lot of bidding going on, and the old companies are going to focus on companies who have the cash flow, the safety programs, and the companies who are not going to have to worry about, do I pay the bank or put the money in the safety department? So that's why I think you're going to see some changes going on. And when you strapped for cash because you have a high debt load, sometimes you have not the choice. Fortunately, Standard, we enjoy very little debt. We've been very conservative. 2009, I learned the hard way, school of hard knocks. I owed the bank $40 million. My personal guarantee was on that, and I said, you know what? I'm going to sit back this next boom, and I'm going to pay the bank off, and we're relatively debt-free, and now it's going to pay dividend. Then we studied the cost approach on the supply chain, and we contacted vendors and say, hey, you guys are going to have to help us because y'all are all together. And we see, the effect of low prices from Walmart to the local restaurants to the local Harley-Davidson dealership. So, there's going to be a struggle coming on even more in 2016. Then we studied the labor market, and we cut wages 10 to 20% in the company, talking from Standard, and everybody else in the industry had to do that to compete with the low prices. The cost of inflation of the service companies was based on the cost of labor. Labor was the driver of why the service companies were so expensive. But what we'll see now is that, and Pat and I were talking about it, is there's about 40,000 people looking for jobs or unemployed because of what happened to the oil prices. But we see very little and very few applications come in right now. And my take on that is I think we have a labor market who's sitting on the sideline. And one reason is during the boom, there was very little time off. So those people are all taking a break. And they're just sitting and hoping that things are coming back and they can go back to work. But I think there's a large pool of labor sitting on the sidelines, seeing what's going to go on, and they're drawing unemployment. The bad thing is we had somebody put an application in, and we offered him a job. And he said, okay, good. But then we told him, we had a 10% reduction in pay for the same job he was used to do, and he said, no, thank you. I said, why is that? He said, my employment officer told me I don't have to take a job and cut in pay for the same job. So he's drawing, again, unemployment. So I foresee still some difficult time to come, especially in 2016. I think it's going to really set in because this year those companies are still working off their accounts receivables and cutting back, and they're getting leniency from the bankers to stretch out notes. But I think 2016, I don't see the price getting any better, and there's going to be some hard times to come. I remember very well when I started in business, the hard times were there, and we saw $12 a barrel. And we thought it was a dream to see $45 a barrel. We could only dream, would it get up to $45 a barrel? Now, that dream turned into a nightmare. $45 is a nightmare. And the bad thing is, we're going to have to wake up and learn to live with $45 a barrel. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Peter.